more than 300 athletes already, there even more in the list, who violated all the principles. Russia is systemically violating the anti-doping guidelines. Those who were openly supporting the war. How can you allow these people to enter Olympics? Because Olympic Games, it's number one, it's the biggest sports event in the world. Thousands of athletes, we are checking them, we're analyzing their social media, their connections.
Hello and welcome to Ukraine in Flames, a special project by Ukraine Media Centre and NGO Euro-Atlantic Course. And I'm your host, Matt Wickham. This episode covers how to battle Russian propaganda in sport and how Ukraine should respond to the IOC's decision to allow Russia and Belarusian athletes to compete under neutral status after months of Ukraine and the wider sporting community called for a Russian and Belarusian blanket ban at the Paris Olympics. If you want to learn more about this subject, please continue watching this video and don't forget to press subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any of our videos in the future. Individual athletes cannot be punished for their actions of their governments, Thomas Bach, the head of the International Olympic Committee, said in a response to the criticism over his decision to allow Russian and Belarusian athletes to compete in the Paris Olympics, including those who have openly expressed support for Russia's war. Our guest today discusses the blatant obviousness of this support, how a neutral state will appear, how Ukraine and the rest of the world should react, and whether a boycott is in the works for Ukrainian athletes, and how Russian supporters of the war has nowhere to hide. Olga Saladukha, former triple jumper, MP and chairperson of the Subcommittee of the Higher Education and Sports of the Verkhovna Rada Committee on Youth and Sports, is the first to speak, discussing the athletes who have already been sanctioned, the obvious support for war among Russians, and the anti-doping scandal, which continues today. Let's listen.
The Portal Tribune is actually collecting the evidence. More than 300 athletes already, there even more in the list, who violated all the principles because they are telling that, like, we support the war. We can see how they dressed. We can see in tennis they were showing all the time that Russian Belarusian sport is like a big propaganda, so they did everything for it. So we collect the data. At the level of ministry, I know that there is a huge list because they talk to federation with personal sanctions. Like not the prohibition of visa obtaining, prohibition of entry to country. At state level, the France has to block that as well. So for them not to enter the country. So after Olga Saladukha's case, I know that some federations started discussing these, like not touching the hands, like maybe even not fist to fist. So any federation, they have like a list of gestures that they approve after the competition. But Russia is systemically violating the anti-doping guidelines. They still continue banning the World Anti-Doping Agency, and after at the level of federation they prohibited, like after the Russian flags were prohibited in symbols, Russian Olympic Committee joined the annexed territories, and after that Olympic Committee was excluded from the International Olympic Committee. And all those criteria that were, I don't think they didn't manage to comply with any single criteria. Those who were openly supporting the war. How can you allow these people to enter Olympics, even if like there are not so many of them? In social media, we saw that Czech magazine invented this uniform for them. That what should use these athletes on the banners and just showing that these athletes have no right to be in France and any other country of the world.
Oleksandr Glyvinsky, our next guest and president of the Ukrainian Sports Press Association, talks of global Russian propaganda and how it is hard for Ukraine to counter the propaganda machine for the real voices and the truth to be heard. Additionally, he advocates for the vigilance, telling how Ukraine and the sporting community must ensure these new requirements for neutral status athletes are adhered to. Let's take a look.
So this propaganda is really very, very, very strong. And the propaganda was at the global level with slightly transformed narratives to actually impact the global decision makers, not only in sports, but in external policy, foreign policy. For us, it's so hard to push our narrative. If the world instantly stuck to our claims, we would actually destroy this at initial level, because not instantly they started giving us like air defense and other types of ammo. How many people died before that? So they hesitated. And sitting somewhere far, we've grown these muscles. We live in wartime. It's a part of our life. So we still have the competitions. We're still in 2022. I just want to remind you, in August, the Ukraine's soccer championship, we revived it, and other championships, and we have competitions with spectators without these, and they want to bring spectators to soccer matches. But again, somebody didn't know about the war, someone forgot in the world, therefore, IOC. Well, it's clear that Russia gives its impact, and some powerful sports celebrities are doing this, but IOC is playing with humanism, yeah? Okay, if an athlete is just an athlete, not supporting the war, why should not he or she get a chance to just, take part? It's nothing bad, especially for people in the world who don't live in a raid alert and shelling context. So our struggle is hard, but nobody mentioned that. I think that we don't need... This is not a failure. Yes, maybe we didn't achieve everything that we wanted, but still a lot we managed to achieve. A lot we managed to get with those actions we had before. Now it's clear that we can see and state that IOC, with these decisions, instead of what they had in March, now it's December, they are step by step doing some unexpected things. But we have to put the pressure. We have to provide the facts. I carefully read all the requirements that IOC is presenting to neutral athletes. These are quite strict. Even Russians, with Belarusians, they think these are discriminatory because they've claimed so many times about it. There is no right for their introduction. They need to have a logo in French, like a neutral international athlete, like monochromatic uniform, and they can't use this George's ribbon. On the nails, you can't put anything not even the flag, but any symbols related to Russia. So no manicure. And this is something that we have to check carefully, be careful with it, and we have to put pressure on it, because IOC, if we speak of those 11 qualified athletes, they say that they will still endorse the decision, international federations pick these athletes and IOC has to endorse. We have cases, the judo, taekwondo, and fencing, where Russians and Belarusians were allowed, and where the participants of competitions were those athletes who belong to army clubs, law enforcement clubs, let's call it, representing the defense and security sector. In judo, approximately 18 people, 2 of them became world champions, and enough of evidence that they took part in these Z gatherings, supporting Putin and Smirnova. The fencing athlete who was competing, Harlan, her brother, actually, Smirnova's brother, is fighting us, Ukrainians, in the army. So they ignored all that. And if IOC is such a humane institution, so we have to put more pressure and be careful with it, be attentive to it, and be vigilant. Instead of IOC, we can't make any decision.
Our next guest, Leonid Veselkov, an Olympic reporter, TV and radio presenter, and volunteer, discusses Russia's efforts to create alternative Olympics with their allied countries, aiming to undercut and undermine the IOC. He highlights the analyst's work, ensuring that Russian and Belarusian athletes supporting the war are held accountable, presenting evidence to prevent their participation in the 2024 Olympic Games. Let's take a listen.
In Russia, they do think that this will be super effective for them. In 1984, they had the same friendship games or friendly games in parallel to Olympics in Los Angeles when they boycotted that, and they are trying to copycat it. The Soviet experience. They have two parallel lines. The games that you mentioned, it's for internal market, let's say, for their internal consumers, and we already have these narratives that you'll get the same money as you'll get in the Paris Olympics. Why our stars or athletes and celebrities humiliated by everyone? Why should they go to Paris if they can compete here? These are our favorites. They will make the same money. This is their internal story, yeah? And they will try to push it forward, yeah? For internal market. This is purely for internal market. And another story is what they're trying to push the whole civilized world. I mean, the external layer. That we do not accept the neutral status, we demand to bring us back. And I'm pretty sure they will try to play victims. I just want to remind you that Russian Federation in Olympics, without a flag, without anthem, since Rio they've been doing it. But then they had sanctions for the dirty anti-doping games and stories, yeah. But still, each and every Olympics, every time we have the Olympic Games, they are fighting for that tricolor to be there, not on athletes, but at least for fans to get these. Winter Olympics 2018. Let's remember that. Till the very last day, IOC was prohibiting even the presence of tricolor symbols, even for fans. And all their diplomatic resources, media, environment, they were putting this pressure for them to allow to have the tricolor. And 1 or 2 days prior to official opening of the Olympics, they were allowed to use the flags. In Korea, millions of these were there. They were hanging everything with their flags, all the locations. They were engaging locals to their activities. And this was the propaganda. This was pressure per se. And we have to understand that this is what they will try to do in Paris in Olympics, because Olympic Games, it's number one, it's the biggest sports event in the world. The whole world will just observe this. So definitely they will try to use all the leverage they can. And how can we impact that? What Ilya mentioned, and Oleksandr and Olga, our resources all have to be engaged to raise the awareness. What our colleagues are doing with the Tribune portal, approximately 400 cases are published there, proved cases, but thousands of athletes, we are checking them. We're analyzing their social media, their connections. They delete their posts. They are actively concealing and hiding something they've been doing, but screenshots cannot be destroyed, and we actively record everything that was there in previous years. And our task will be to show that to the world, to talk about it, to demonstrate it to the world. Our resources have to work for it.
You've been watching the special project by Ukraine Media Center and NGO Euro-Atlantic course, dedicated to the Russian-Ukrainian war, Ukraine in Flames. In the description under this video, you can find information on how you can help Ukraine fight Russian aggression. If you like our work and find it useful, please like and share this video. Slava Ukraini!